Hello there, World Tankers. Welcome back to my videos. I am wot Blitz, and today we are going over yet again another premium. This being the Tier 9 Kpz 70 or the MBT 70. This being a Tier 9 German heavy tank. Now, this is actually a splendid and excellent tank in my opinion, but as always, I'm going to start with the statistics and then go over some gameplay and whether or not this tank is worth the 10,000 gold price tag it is stuck on. So, starting off, this tank has 1700 hit points. You can see I have 1805. I do run the hit point buff. I feel that this tank doesn't have a spectacular amount of armor, so I always run the hit points on tanks that don't ever have spectacular armor, and I would just suggest to do the same for you. The view range on this tank is 282.5, which is actually excellent, especially for a Tier 9 heavy. Most are sitting at around 270, 260. The damagement on this tank, however, is not the best at 2300. That is pretty much like Tier 8 medium damage per minute, not even. That is how bad the damage per minute is. However, penetration also bad, 240. You do get some nice heat pen at 305. You can penetrate through most tanks, but again, at Tier 9, 305 penetration is not spectacular. The damage, though, is one of the best points of this tank, dealing 560. This is the most damaging heavy tank at Tier 9. One of the most damaging heavy tanks in the game, to be honest, other than like the KV2. But at the higher tiers, this is an excellent gun. And not to mention, it has very good shell velocity at 920, and this tank has an excellent gun handling statistics. 2.26 second aiming time with a dispersion of 0.344. It really almost never misses its shots. It will bounce because you did see my penetration just wasn't enough to hit that IS-4. But it really rarely misses its shots. And while turning the turret or moving, you can see that dispersion is excellent, as only is 0.18. That is how good it is. Now, depression on this tank isn't spectacular, it's only 6 degrees, but you can see this tank is super low down, which means you really don't have to worry about the gun depression that much. The gun elevation is 15 degrees, which is pretty good. It's not spectacular. Again, this tank's very low down, so you wouldn't expect great gun elevation. This tank weighs 50 tons, which is quite heavy. It's actually a decent rammer. And since this tank can go 40 forwards and 15 backwards, it has a very healthy top speed. Not to mention it has a very nice effective power to weight ratio of 14.86 in hard terrain. Not to mention a 32.8 degree traverse speed. It is actually pretty good. And the turret traverse speed is 21.87, which is about Tier 10 heavy's traverse speed. So it's about average, but it's very good mobility, and this tank has 9% concealment, which unfortunately isn't as good as you'd hope it would be for how small of a target this tank is. However, Wargaming wanted to make it at least a little bit balanced, as it is a heavy, and you really shouldn't be able to camp this tank as it isn't a camper. And to be honest, I really like this tank. Even though the statistics may say that this doesn't seem like a great tank, its gun really just never misses. You can see here, extremely accurate, not even bigger than that SU when I'm turning and driving. The aiming circle almost never gets big. It's super accurate. Not to mention, it's a very good top speed. It can stay at that top speed consistently. Overall, I think this is an excellent tank, to be honest. Now, you can see here I do mess up this shot, but that's what happens when I exit the aiming and I try to just snap it in. However, this SU is not rushing me. I have my 62A behind me who tracks him right before he rushes me. Now, I know that I'm at least going to get one shot in him. Come on, get him, boom. Now, he does tap us once and our 62A decides to die, but come on, get around the corner, come on. We just get around the corner, he misses his shell. I know that I out-reload him, so we're going to back up here. HE, boom, dead, 60 damage. And the nice thing about this tank is that its high explosive is very nice, 640 damage. I would expect it to be a bit more. It's average as a 152mm, but its high explosive penetration is good enough to at least deal some damage on some tanks. And let's see what that high explosive pen is. It's 90 penetration, which is actually quite a bit, especially for a Tier 9 heavy. That means that you can penetrate pretty much the rear of all tanks. You can penetrate the sides of, a 62A, and I would suggest to run calibrated. Some of you guys do want to know what my loadout is. Run calibrated. It brings your damage per minute down 161, which is barely anything. Your standard pen goes up 12. Your heat pen goes up 31 to 336, which means now you can penetrate, the front of a U100, Jagdpanzer cheeks, However, unfortunately, still apparently not enough to get through this E3, as you will see, perfectly aimed in, just doesn't want to pen. And the high explosive then goes up to 99, which is pretty much tier 10, 152mm tank penetration. And you can see here, load high explosive on the rear of the C3. Boom. Gets a little bit of a low roll, 609, but it still was enough to make me happy, finishing off this game with 3,527 damage, which is by no means a bad game. This is an excellent game, especially every game I played in this tank. I played, I think, 10 in it. Every single one I was bottom tiered. I was stuck against tier 10s, as you can see. But even though we were against tier 10s, we still managed to come top on the list above every other tank. Overall, it was just an excellent game, and one great thing about this tank is it does earn credits. You can see we bounced a couple heat shells this game, and we do earn some credits. 32,000 more with premium, so we've earned about 55,000, 54,000 if we had premium on. So overall, this is an excellent tank for credit earning, and just a very good tank in battle. Let's get stuck into that second replay. This second map we are on is Vineyards, and I normally do show the armor, and I would especially show it in this heavy tank. However, since I'm on vacation, my Wi-Fi is terrible as I'm in the middle of nowhere. I'm pretty much running off of LTE service, and it's not even LTE, it's like 3G or whatever. It takes me like 4 hours just to finish uploading the video to YouTube, and then it takes like another hour to process it. It's a really long time. I do it overnight, so by the time you're watching this video, it's probably been, 10 hours after I've recorded this. However, I can at least tell you guys what the armor is, as it does work on my iPad, the app, so that is good. And I'll start off with the front. The upper plate of this tank, the front upper plate, is about 220 thick, which is actually quite decent. It's not bad at all. It's not going to bounce, tier 10s or anything, and the lower plate's only 200. It's still quite armored, but you're not going to bounce really anything with the front plate. Tier 8s might bounce you tier 8 mediums, but for my battles, I have not played one tier 8 match, so don't expect to really get lucky. Now, the big redeeming factor about this tank is the turret. The front of the turret is pretty much sitting at around 300 thick, and that is super thick. It's pretty much impenetrable everywhere on the front of the turret. The sides are pretty weak at like 150, and the side of the tank's only about 60 thick, so you can be easily shot with high explosive through the tracks if you can get a shot through. Do remember that. And the rear of this tank's also only 62, so if you like to shoot high explosive, you can easily pen right through the rear of this tank. However, there is one weak spot on the front of this tank's turret. And if I pause the replay after I shoot this guy, I'm going to show you it real quick. If you can see the front of this tank, there is this little box on the side of it. You can see there. That box, it's a little flat thing on the side, is about, I'd say, 200 thick. So you can easily penetrate that with any tier 10, and do remember that, because that is the only weak spot really on the front of that tank's turret. If it's in a hull down position and you can't hit that spot, don't pull out on this tank until you know it's shot, because again, it does have a 13-second reload. Very long reload, and it's not even 13 because I do have my quick reload on there. It's about 14.5 seconds. So really don't pull out on this tank unless you know it's shot, and you can easily penetrate a shell right through its lower plate, or upper plate at that matter. You can see we've picked up 535 damage. This VK wanted to trade with us. That is one nice thing about running this tank, is you can easily trade shells with people. You can see, boom, we snap a shell right into the turret of that AMX. VK was going to push up on us. He really wanted us dead. But our tank 704 managed to clear him right off of the map. And now we got this E4 and the AMX over there. And I really don't want to mess with those tanks, so I am trying to play this cool. I've already missed a couple shots this game, as my accuracy was not the best at the beginning, but I wanted to play it cool, make sure I had some easy shots off here, just make sure I could conserve my hit points. And I do see that T-54 there. Unfortunately, he's just not backing up far enough. Come on. Doesn't back up just far enough for me to be able to hit him. However, there is going to be an unsuspecting tank destroyer, and as you guys know, I hate those WTs. They really just don't miss, and especially apparently when they shoot at me, they never miss, so me getting a shell into him really made me happy, at least for a little bit. However, this T-54 is going to try and clip us out, but we're able to just back around this ridge. And one nice thing about this tank, as I said, is the mobility and the camo rating, which are both excellent. You can see here, look at this excellent aiming time. Wait, boom, snaps the shell right in. 561. Now we've managed to do 2,700 damage, it says, because of our blind shot. So we're already on quite a bit of damage. And come on, are we going to get this T-54? Amen. Come on, get another snap. Yes, we do. The shell velocity is not amazing, but you can see it's definitely good enough to get your shells in. Now we're pretty much sitting at around 2.8 thousand damage now, 2.9. Now again, E4, load that high explosive. We're going to be able to pen him with it. You can see easy pen right through the butt. 757 damage, dealing 3,568, it says, which is a very nice game in general. We didn't lose very many hit points. You can actually play this tank really well. It can work aggressively. You can see this almost set 3,700 damage, 31,000 credits. With premium, we would have earned about 60,000. Overall, it's just an excellent tank. And in my opinion, I do think it's actually worth the 10,000 gold. This tank isn't overpowered, but it is very strong. And when you're playing up against tier 8s, I do think it actually is quite overpowered. You can easily win a tier 8 match if you're up against an easier tier 9 to take out. You can just so easily pick on any tank that you go up against. It's like running a T-49, but you actually have armor. It's just such a good tank. Overall, though, I really do like this tank, and I hope you guys will too if you do pick it up. Thanks for watching my video, though. If you did like this, make sure to subscribe and leave a like down below. And I'm going to leave my Discord in the description if you do want to join that. Send me your replays, and thanks. See you in the next video.